what you have to do to actually access this very nice application, please use your smartphones and go to slido.com. It will ask you for a code. Please enter IYC 17 so you can access the question, how was or is your morning today? I see 4 answers. Need some more time? Okay, we're slowly getting positive messages. All good so far? Anybody having technical difficulties to enter it? No? Perfect. All good so far. Everybody answer? Perfect. So we're doing good. We're doing good. Thank you all for waking up on time. Also mingling a little bit before this session. It is my great honor to actually be the moderator today of this panel. The next question is, what's your spiritual animal? You can put any animal that you think is your spirit. So we can all see what you think is the best animal that is close to you. Lion, wow, bird. Orangutan, goat. Baboon. What is a baboon? I see a lot of cats and dogs. Don't be inspired by yesterday. Good. Alpaca. Wow. I see somebody in local language, Lavna most. Maybe use English. Okay, I see there's a lot of animals, so you're all very different apparently when it comes to animals. But what we want to do also with this application is what we want to do with this application is the following. Maybe you can stop it. Okay. So what we want to use this for is you can type in questions at every moment that you think is the most fitting, and then we will see it on the screen. You can put it with your name on it, or if you want to do it anonymously, you can also do it that way. But what we will do is use this application to give you the microphone. In the past years, we had some problems of giving the microphone to people, especially in the middle, because it's really difficult to enter from the sides. What we want to see is, I see there's some humor even in the beginning. This is good, this is good. Don't misuse the application, please. But good morning to anybody who said good morning to me. So please type in your questions at any moment that you have, and we'll give you the microphone when the speakers have given their expose. So today we have a very nice, at least for me, a very nice list of speakers. We have Anita Tregner Mlinaric, who has been an EU senior expert based in Brussels for the past years. Very focused on the enlargement and also the EU affairs and how we actually create policies for young people. Then we have Mr. Zoran Popov, who comes from the Regional Cooperation Council. It says here that as a politician with long time experience, actually Zoran is not a politician. He's not yet a politician, but you might want to catch him afterwards for a coffee for the time when he's a politician, who is based in Sarajevo and working very much on the regional aspects of cooperation, reconciliation, and different aspects of how we can actually, as a region, grow together. And then we also have the only politician of this panel, Ms. Ivana Tufegdzic, who is the youngest MP in North Macedonian Parliament. We have two young people in Parliament at the moment, and both are from the majority of Parliament. And they will give us their views on the question, should I stay or should I go, and their ideas on what we are actually doing. So without any much of time wasting, we will straightly go to Ms. Mlinaric. So please, your 10-15 minutes.
It is? Yes. Okay. Well, I think I'm loud enough in general, so maybe I don't even need a mic. Thank you so much for inviting me to be here. And as a colleague said, thank you for waking up to be with us. We really hope that we will be able to inspire you with some of the thoughts that we are having, but most importantly, for us, it's important that we listen to you and that we listen to what you have to say, because you are the ones that we are counting on changing things. So I'm really very happy to be here today. I've been working here in the region for a number of years, almost 10 or even 15. When I was working for the donors like USAID, UNDP, and the others, with my time with USAID, I spent a lot of time in Macedonia as well. I was one of those that said, God forbid that I ever work for European Union and on European funds, but then at the end, what you don't want to do catches you. So I finished in Brussels for the last 6 years. And actually, I saw being over there how it is important to be the part of the EU, because this is the decision-making city, and you need to, catch up, with the trends and what is happening, so that you're also able to bring changes to your countries. When it comes to the question, should I stay or should I go? Again, maybe I'm not the right person, or I am the right person because I did leave Croatia. But I left Croatia in order to learn something, to be able then to help country in the region, with the knowledge I'm gonna gain, and hopefully will be also able to help the countries, to be better, in policy making, but also in getting all these nice funds that European Union is, putting in front of us. When it comes to brain circulation, this is something that I'm very passionate about, because all of the countries, including the countries I'm coming from, is really suffering for a very big brain drain. I think that Ireland now, it's completely populated with Croatians. Germany historically, is also the one. So after we joined the EU, it is true that there are a lot of people that left. Now, as I was talking to my colleagues that my colleague panelists here today, there are actually a lot of things that are and unfortunately enabling this to happen. And is it European Union that is guilty of that? Is it also a part of the guilt of the national governments? I would say we all have to do our part of the job for something like this to be stopped. Because there are measures in place that the European Commission, the institutions, are putting in front of us in order to help young people, to be mobile, to get more opportunities. But also, there are countries that are doing a lot in terms of, putting measures in place so that also people, do go abroad, but that they also come back. I was doing analysis in new member states, what is causing this problem. And everybody, was also complaining that, this is more, to European Commission, to the institutions that they are not doing enough. That also these older member states are the ones who are attracting people with better conditions, and there is nothing to do about it. But actually, this is not the case. Our analysis also showed that there is not much that actually our countries, national countries, are doing in keeping people in place. Being expat myself, I can also say that it is not that, some big salaries, or money would, return me back. It was more that, I would like to see conditions so that, I'm offered an environment that I can actually utilize the knowledge that I gain, working in Brussels for so many years. I didn't find it yet. So for that reason, we try to do something different. We formed a company that is actually helping Croatia and the region, in order to better understand what is happening at the EU level, try to translate the policies to our countries, try to work with the countries on better utilization of the funds, so that, this knowledge exchange happens. So at the end, I'm very happy what I'm doing, because I'm in a way paying my due back to my countries, and I'm trying to my best from Brussels. We are also trying really to work with the Commission on improving conditions for youth. So that is why we are working on, why we put also on the agenda this brain circulation study that is going to be done by the Commission. But also we are trying to see what is happening in other member states. So which countries are actually doing better, in keeping, the youth in the countries, actually fostering mobility, but also trying to get them back. And then, we spoke, to the countries like Estonia, Romania, who actually, who figured it out how to do it. So they very much like they actually are happy to see that that the youth, that the students, that the researchers, that they go back that they go out from the countries, that they use these knowledge exchange programs, but then also they put the measures in place to get them back. So in Estonia, what they do, they have, they don't lose the track of people who went, and they are trying to have this knowledge exchange as they're abroad. While if they want to come back, there are return grants waiting for them. So, they put measures in place so that they enable conditions for those that want to come back, that they can really come back and stay and do the job they want. What we heard that is happening in Romania lately, and Poland will actually try to replicate this, is that they're trying to get their diaspora back by allowing them to stay in country for 1 month, just to see what is happening, what are the opportunities, to have the talk with them, to see what actually they would need to come back, and they are trying to work on the measures to do so. So we are really trying to see how other countries are doing, and hopefully we'll be able, to do the proper mapping, so that, we also advise other countries and governments what it can be done. It's not that, one recipe fits all, but, it's very important that we at least try to do something. So that is why it's very important that I have, two of my colleague panelists here, because they can also tackle it, from, their points of view. And, based also on what we are gonna hear from you today, we will also try to position these recommendations at, the levels that we are able to do so. So use us also while we are here around you these days, and we would really like to hear from you, and hopefully together with you we'll be able to change the landscape. But EU is very important. I know that there's a lot that also your country has been going through in order to be even accepted. Which actually you got the green light from Germany yesterday. When it comes to negotiations, I know that there are a lot of questions, is this good or bad for us? But knowing from the perspective of Croatia and working in the region, it's very hard to be isolated. It's very hard to do, things by yourself. So the European Union, it's still a good option because, we also see in Croatia that there are a lot of good things that are happening. At least we also see this from the economic growth perspective. There are a lot of challenges that we need to tackle, but we are getting there. Then when we see countries like Poland, to which Croatia was always looking at, somebody that is completely behind Poland through the EU funds that we're getting, is becoming, a very big, European power. So there is a lot, to be done. The European, institutions are putting a lot of instruments in place that are, enabling growth for the countries. But there is also a lot, on us, and, the national governments, to take on that. You also have this privilege in a way to learn from others, learn from good examples, learn from bad examples, but try to do something already now. Try to catch up because also for Croatia being the youngest member state, and even though it's been 7 years, we are still not there yet in terms of being so good and strategically visible at the European Union level. We hope that now with the presidency that we are taking over in the beginning of next year, this is going to change a bit. But still, we are trying, to do our best in that regard. So, try to catch up the train, try to, join, the community as soon as possible. And I really, truly believe that you will see, the benefits and that you will be happy that actually this is happening for the country. So thank you very much. This is what I wanted to say for now, but, I'm here for questions and also, be more than happy to speak to you after our session is over. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Just to have a clear room and to understand, how many of you actually would want to leave your country? Okay. Pretty interesting. We have a very direct question at the moment. And it is for you, Ms. Anita. What are you personally doing to give back to your country now while living and working in Brussels?
Okay, so our company that has been established 2 years ago, it's now a liaison office, from Croatia and the region to Brussels, which means that universities, different kind of companies who really need EU expertise, we are here for them to help them. So some of them, they just want, to be, strategically visible in Brussels. So we enable them that, they get close to the institutions, they need to be. They are much better and have understanding of the policies and how they can put their own views on the agenda. Also, when it comes to the European funds, we are the ones that are also informing them of actually what are the matching ones for them, trying to find partners for them, also trying to work, of course, that they have successful applications, but, there are all sorts of things that we are really trying to do so that, this, missing, puzzle that they have when it comes to either policies or funds, that we are actually there for them. So one of our actually, clients is Rimac Automobili that probably all of you know because they are the biggest innovator in Croatia, and they're also very much acknowledged at European Union level as well. But for the entrepreneurs who are really, focusing on the technologies and, their innovation, European Union and the funds, that are available are something that are, completely unknown and they don't know how to tackle. So we are here actually to help them, so that they better understand what are the also opportunities coming from that end, but also being, so successful in what they do that they also have a say in policy making. So, having such a big innovator that Croatia has and being battery is one of the very important policies at the European level. Of course, that, they are very credible to say, what the European Union should do in the future when it comes to the directives they're putting in place. So this is just one of the examples, but we actually have many because we work with a lot of different organizations.
Thank you very much for your great insight. I hope that answered the first question that we had, which was pretty direct. Thank you very much for your great insight. And as you can see, even if you leave your country, you can still work for your country and make it a better place, although you're not maybe physically there. That is one of the great things that the European Union is actually offering, so you can be based in Brussels but still make your country a better place if you are really committed to it. Thank you very much once again. And now we move on to Mr. Zoran Popov, who has a presentation and will give us some direct insights on, with numbers on what is actually happening with young people and what their opinion is.
Very much, Blažen. Thanks for inviting RCC. To be honest, we didn't used to deal with youth very much so far. But as one of priorities, as you will see from the presentation, we got a project from the European Commission for next year, and I think there is a huge potential to work together in the next year and beyond. Second, as you probably may know, Macedonia and Bulgaria are also holding the chairmanship in office of the Berlin process, so we still have 6-7 months to think what we should include and to try to push political elites to implement some important policies when it comes to youth. We as RCC stand ready to support. As I've said, we will work next year together, not just from conference to conference, not just to deliver a presentation, but let us do something substantive which will have an important impact in the societies as far as youth policies are concerned. As you probably may know, we have a Balkan Barometer survey. We used to produce it each year. And I've made a selection, a highlight of several very important issues, at least from our perspective. And I want to share what do young people think about some key trends and challenges. Let me start with regional cooperation. Do you? Okay. The first question is, do you agree that regional cooperation can contribute to the political, economic, or security situation in your society? 52, in general, this is the general answer from all groups. 52% tend to agree, 22 totally agree, which means 74% of people in Southeast Europe, yes, they do think that regional cooperation is important. When it comes to youth, I have divided it in two categories. We have respondents from 18 to 24 years of age, and we have from 25 to 34, which we still consider as youth. More or less the answers are the same, so 53 tend to agree, 19% totally agree, which means overwhelming majority of youth in the region think that regional cooperation is important. Do you feel welcome abroad when you are traveling to other cities in the region, in the Western Balkans? 51% of youth between 18 and 24 said, yes, we do feel. 20% they feel welcome in some cities and unwelcome in some other, which is also quite an interesting, and then I'm also referring here to reconciliation and what we can do in this respect. But again, I think that this is a very positive, optimistic number. Overall, 51% of youth people think that they're feeling welcome in other capitals in the Western Balkans region. How satisfied are you with the way things are going in your economy? When we say economy, this is RCC drafting guidelines. Due to some open bilateral issues in the region, we do not use the term country, but economy. So how satisfied are you with the way things are going in your country? 51% in total are mostly unsatisfied or completely dissatisfied. These are the responses from young people between 18 and 24. 52% when it comes of the second group, 25 to 34 years of age. So more than 50% of young people in the region are dissatisfied with the way how things are going in their countries. How satisfied are you with the economic situation in your country? 23% are completely dissatisfied, while 33% mostly dissatisfied. The second group is even worse. 33% are completely dissatisfied and 30% are mostly dissatisfied. So it's not just about reconciliation, it's about economy as well. What do you think are the two most important problems facing your country? 49% have said, and 50% respectively have said, it's unemployment. 20% goes to economic cooperation situation and 10% to corruption. So for 50% of youth in the region, unemployment is the most important issue. Let me show you a few figures on youth unemployment in the Western Balkans. As you probably may know, the Regional Cooperation Council is in charge of implementation of the so-called MAPREA, Multi-Annual Action Plan for Regional Economic Integration, and we do have some solid statistics on new jobs that have been opened in the region. So 700,000 new jobs were created in the last 7 years in the region, but only 4.3% of these jobs were taken up by youth under 24 years of age, only 4.3%. Youth employment rate is 19.7%. In the European Union, it's almost double, 35.4%, and vice versa. Unemployment in the Western Balkans is more than 35% in 2018, whereas the EU average youth unemployment is 15.2%. $240,000 youth aged between 15 and 24 are unemployed, but they are actively looking for a job in the region. 240,000. Over the past 7 years, only 10% of young people, or over 70,000 aged 15 to 24, has neither been a job nor looking for one. So 10%. On the preferences, where do young people want to work? They always choose public sector. They would prefer to work in the public administration or governmental agencies. So almost half, or 49% of youth would choose to work in public sector. On the question why? Because they think that it's more secure. The job is more secure compared to the private sector. This is also, from our point of view, a discouraging number, and we have to work on this and to support youth to enter private sector as much as possible. Also, some interesting data from Balkan Barometer. young people between 18 and 34 believe that the government should invest more in social infrastructure, in science and technology, unlike other groups of respondents who said that they will prioritize industrial development. So youth are looking for social infrastructure, science, education, technology. As we have said earlier, they are mostly concerned by unemployment and corruption. 30% of young people in the region, aged between 25 and 34, are not satisfied with the skills provided by the education system. 1/3. 36% will require either to learn new or advance existing skills, which mostly go to digital literacy or foreign language at their job in the past 12 months. So they have asked to go through additional qualification in order to keep the job. What do you think is the most important thing for getting ahead in life? 29% said having a good education, young people between 18 and 24. 24% say working hard. And again, 24% knowing the right people. When you ask the second, so to say, youth category from 25 to 34, their first answer is 28% knowing the right people. With 26 working hard and 22 having a good education. So young people up to 24, they think that having a good education is the most important issue, while a bit older generation, they do say that knowing the right people is the most important thing for getting advanced ahead in a life. Do you think that EU membership would be a good thing, a bad thing, or neither good or bad, nor bad for your economy, for your country? 61% of youth people overall in the region think, yes, EU membership is good for my country. Overall, the number is 56% in the region, so youth are much more, supportive to the EU perspective. However, in the answers, why do you think so, they mostly associate it with increased opportunities to travel, study, and work abroad. These are the three main reasons why they think that EU membership is good. This is the one when, if you open our website, you will see only answers in general. When I got this data from my assistants, I didn't sleep. Let me be very, very frank. It is very discouraging. Would you consider living and working abroad? In general, 40% of the population in the Western Balkans want to live and work abroad. 40% of the total population. When it comes to youth, 18 to 24 years of age, 62% said yes. I do consider to live and work abroad. 62%. So as I've said, just a short clarification on the methodology. We have 823 young people between 18 and 24. 823 respondents out of 6,000 from the region. And we have around 1,200 between 25 and 34, which means out of total 6,000 people interviewed in the region, around 2,000 are youth. The second category, 25 to 34, 60%, they said also yes. We are considering to live and work abroad. And the older you get, the number is decreasing. Between 35 and 44, 48%, which is significantly less than previous two categories. So again, 62% of young people are thinking to leave the country. And we have to do whatever necessary this is an alarming data. This is official Eurostat statistics for 2018. And one could imagine that majority of these people, of these numbers, are young people. In total, 228,000 nationals from the Western Balkans emigrated legally into the European Union in 2018. The trends, we still do not have the official data for 2019, but are even worse, at least if we can trust to national statistical offices of the countries in the Western Balkans. 2.2% or 62,000 people from Albania have left last year. 24,300 from Macedonia, North Macedonia, which is 2.1%. 34,500 from Kosovo, which is also 2%. 53,000 from Bosnia and Herzegovina, 1.5% of the overall population. 51,000 from Serbia, or 1.3%, and the last 3,000 from Montenegro. 2% on annual basis. Within our security cooperation, which in RCC falls under political department, we used to have a so-called community dialogue with youth in the region. Why do I say security cooperation? We're also looking from another perspective, from another angle, when it comes to radicalization and violent extremism. So this is just as an extra info. A lot of people who have never traveled to any foreign battlefield are getting radicalized nowadays in the Western Balkans. Youth people, predominantly online. They don't have a job, they don't have what to do, they're sitting 24/7 on the internet. They have been approached by charismatic, trained persons. I don't know whether they are imams or good communicators. And they used to start with a good narrative and then talking about other issues and getting young people radicalized. People who have never fought or traveled at any foreign battlefield before. There are a number of also youth people, which is indeed a very concerning trait, especially in four economies in the region, I would say Bosnia, Kosovo, North Macedonia, Albania. They're joining Gulf state-sponsored NGOs, charity organizations, so-called. Of course, at the first stance, they are do it for living. They're well paid, 400, 500 euros for young men, fair enough. And slowly but surely, they're getting radicalized and used to spread this voice around. And we have an extensive debate with youth people in this respect in the region. And we do openly ask them, okay, what do you think? What are your hopes? What are your fears? What would you like to do when getting older? These are the most common answers which we get. First, total apathy, distrust, grievance, dissatisfaction of how things are going in their societies or in their countries. Corruption, rule of law. They feel excluded, they feel marginalized. They feel that nobody is listening to them. They say, nobody cares what do we think, what about our hopes, about our fears. Everybody used to say youth, but no one is implementing anything important for us. No one is asking, what do we think? We are not just part of the problem, but we are also part of the solution. They also feel that employment is not done on merit-based basis. They have extremely low trust in institutions. And they want better education. So again, this is the most common answers which we get from Western Balkans 6 youth, looking from a security perspective. In terms of political engagement, also apathy is widespread among Western Balkans youth. 42% say they don't care at all. 42%. They don't care at all. They don't want to actively participate or engage with government institutions. So going back to my opening remarks, as I've mentioned, we have got a project from the European Commission, European Union, funded within the framework of IPA 2 2014-2020, which falls under IPA Multi-Country 2019. So European Commission has decided to support Western Balkans youth with a project worth 4.7 million in total. Overall objectives are to contribute to reconciliation by increasing regional cooperation, better opportunities for youth to be involved into decision-making process, and creating favorable conditions for better future for young people in the region. The target group of the project is national and local authorities, schools, civil society organizations, and of course, young people. We will get in total 1.5 out of 4.7 million as of January 2020, and we will work on 2 issues. Policy dialogue between young people and policymakers from relevant institutions, and second, to support full integration of youth policy labs into ongoing regional development policies, which contribute to reconciliation by increasing regional cooperation. We will closely cooperate in the implementation of this project with RICO, European Training Foundation, European Commission Joint Research Center, and UNICEF. Of course, as I've said, we stand ready also to work closely with you and with youth initiatives from the region and to see what we can do. Before I close, I just also want to welcome Friedrich Ebert study, Friedrich Ebert Stiftung comprehensive study, which has been published earlier this year. And we have to take also into account their main recommendations for action into our policies. And we have already had a meeting in Sarajevo, and we will be closely working with them in the course of next year and in the years to come. There are some issues, again, which falls under reconciliation. Ethno-nationalism, 56% of youth would like to live in a mono-ethnic state, and so on and so forth. I'll stop here, and I think I've been provocative enough, and with this not very encouraging data, unfortunately. Thank you.
Yes, actually, I'm not scrolling on Facebook. I'm just looking at the questions that participants are having. So I'm watching all of your questions. Sadly, I can only take the short ones at this moment, and the ones that are having a statement, we will offer you the floor to actually ask it and have your ideas on the things. But there was one interesting question that I really liked. If most people realize that cooperation is important for development, then why their representatives do not foster the idea? Does radicalism win? And we had a question about the participants want a clarification in the sense of youth radicalization. So what does it mean about charity organizations that are out there? What did you mean with those statements?
Thank you. I don't think that radicalism wins at the end of the day. But we should also have a look at the silence of governmental institutions and to spark action as soon as possible. On radicalization, I mean, it's a broader perspective. You have, for example, an NGO who is established to support policies for young people. But behind the stage, they want to support some other kind of politics for young people, either spreading ideology, either preparing them to travel abroad, or to disseminate at home as much as possible these new radical ideologies. I mean, we could talk with hours on this important subject, but again, the main entry point is a good salary at the very beginning. And then they start to work, and then they will ask him, would you be so kind to bring your friends for a coffee? And they will try to explain what the ideology, as they perceive it, is all about. And they slowly but surely are cooking the meat around and spreading the voice around.
Just short question about the methodology of the research. If you could clarify how the research was done, and then we can move on with Ms. Ivana Tufegdzic.
It's not done by RCC. We are paying for it. We are commissioning it. It's done this year, I think, by GfK. There is a public call, which is a renowned PR consultancy company. So in total, 6,000 people from the region have been interviewed. We have two Balkan barometers. One is public sentiment satisfaction survey, and the second one is business sentiment, which means 6 public figures and 6,000 businessmen from the region. Again, they are divided among categories. You have between 18 and 24, 1,000 people, another 1,000 people between 24 and 35, and then from 35 to 44, and so on and so forth. So in total, 12,000 people, 6 public citizens from the region, and 6,000 businessmen.
Thank you very much, Mr. Popov, for the insight on the data, and also having a look around what is happening in the Western Balkans and how young people actually feel in that sense. So thank you very much for your presentation. We will open up the floor right after Ms. Ivana Tufegdzic. So please, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you, Blažen. First of all, thank you for inviting me. This is very important panel for me, and it's very important for me to stand and speak in front of you today. That's why I'm a little bit nervous, although it's my job to speak in front of public. But it's very hard to talk about policy making after these numbers that are disencouraging, and that basically means that what we do, and mostly what we don't do as states, is giving its own result, or there is no result at all. That's why I want to underline the importance of cooperation between the institutions and civil society organizations, because this type of analysis is very important for the institutions. You will have the chance to speak in front of the parliament in North Macedonia, and that's important. We will try as parliament to send your recommendations everywhere in the states, especially in the Western Balkans 6, but also from all the states that are participating in this conference. That is one way. And the other way is if you have a follow-up that one of the governments or parliaments is respecting and implementing your recommendations. And that is where we fail as institutions, and that is how we have this much mistrust from young people in the institutions, because the institutions are not following up with young people, with data, with their recommendations, with their ideas. And that is something that is very, very important. We are lacking of policies, strategies, and action plans that are tackling the topic of brain drain. And it's very important that those strategies and action plans are done in a very inclusive process. That means that youth NGOs, youth branches of political parties, institutions are inside the process and building a strategy together. Because the only way of a successful strategy and action plan is if we all work together. Yesterday, Lydia mentioned a word that is very important for me, that's partnership. And I think that the institutions and young people are supposed to be partners. But that starts if you are partnering, and this is a very controversial, especially in the Western Balkans, if the civil society is partnering with political parties in the first place, or impact the political parties with their analysis, data, and recommendations to put those measures in their election programs in the first place. Because I understand that there is a huge mistrust, especially between the civil society and political parties, and that the civil society does not want to be included in any type of political, those type of political engagement. But still, it's very important to influence inside the political parties the data and the recommendations when they create their election programs, because sometimes they will be in power or in opposition, whatever, but they will be in parliament as important institution that you will need to continue cooperating with, and maybe in governance. So it's important that the political parties also change, especially the youth branches of political parties, and to open up towards civil society that has the analysis, that has the right recommendations, that are on field with young people, and they are talking with young people, and their analysis are based on the needs and expectations of young people on the local level. That is a hard process because they are very much closed, but it's a very important step towards the other type of cooperation, and that is between the institution and civil society. So at the end, I think that it's important that we start building trust. I hear here that in this presentation that we have huge mistrust in the institutions, that we have apathy, that young people are not feeling heard. And that is a problem in the European Union too. But if we work together, maybe we can make an impact. Conferences like this are very, very important. But what is very important is that I've mentioned one time, it's very tough, and we were speaking this morning, it's very tough to put youth on the agenda and to be a priority for the governments in the region especially. And that is because there is always another thing that is more important. I don't know, laws, policies, rule of law, the recommendations, the reports from the European Union, progress reports, and all of that. But youth are always at the end of the agenda, not in the election time, because you need the support of youth to win the election. But after that, you have to remember that you must continue with that agenda. And that is something that I'm fighting here in this country. We've started a process of creating a law on youth participation, for example. I will give this just for an example of how we started a new process of creating a law on youth participation with the parliament is leading the process. There is the government and the opposition inside the process, the civil society organizations, and the youth branches of political parties. It's very hard because we are deciding by consensus in the working group. It's very hard to work with all that mistrust, but still it's a huge step for all of us to learn how to be in process of creating policies together. We have learned a lot from the civil society organizations that always have comparative analysis and comparative laws from other countries that are working. So it is an important process because we are learning and building trust. It's a process that lasts for a year and a half, I think, and it was exhausting. But democracy sometimes it's tough, but it's the best that we can do. So I think that one of the recommendations, let's say, although I'm not supposed to give recommendations to myself, is that, but this is more a recommendation for the civil society organizations and the political parties, that they must be open to a cooperation, because these numbers will get worse. And the institutions, especially the governments, the European Union, have the responsibility together to find solutions for these particular issues, but we cannot find a solution for young people feeling that are not heard. That is, then we have to give them voice. And this type of conferences, you will have the chance in Parliament to speak, and that is very important for all of you, I think, and it's important that we have that type of lesson learned, let's say. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ivana. I just have a quick question for you around how many of you actually have met a member of parliament in your country during work or for drinks or for whatever? Okay, so a lot of you, so you're very well connected. I think it is. Maybe, I don't know. You'll be the judge of it. I do have received a question. Was there any practical change after the youth shared their opinion which you deem so important? So was there any practical change after the youth shared their opinion? And I would add a second question. You have met a lot of young people in the past 3 years. What do you feel is the biggest change inside of the state institutions once you entered the state institutions? Did anything change on a larger scale?
To evaluate myself. Yes, the biggest change is, well, here the situation was different. There was a student movement, and there was a student protest, and after that other protests. So the things in these 2.5 years that I have been an MP, and that is the youth NGOs here will be the judge of my work. But I think that the most important thing is that the institutions have opened and have understood that they must include young people into decision-making processes. That's why we started this law on youth process is becoming an initiative from the civil society organizations, because we had strategic planning of the youth caucus that we have built for the first time in Parliament. That is an informal body that connects MPs from government and opposition in one body that tackles youth issues and policies. And that is an important for the institutional memory. We will try to create a committee on youth in Parliament. So it has changed in a way of giving the youth NGOs and the other youth participants, youth branches of political parties, giving them the voice to speak inside the institutions. And we had a successful, let's say, process of creating law on youth participation. It's still not adopted, it's still not in the procedure because we are having the last consultations about it. but it has changed in a way that before young people were excluded from all of the processes. Now they have informal body in parliament, they have the willingness of the government to, for youth questions and to include them in the processes of creating policies.
And a very quick last question. Is it easy to go against your party or government for certain youth issues?
Yes, if you believe in that the government is doing, I'm a member of parliament from the majority, but it's very easy if you believe that the government is not doing enough to say it publicly, and I have said it even in parliament, the last debate about electing members of government, because it's something that it's not important for me. I will end my mandate, my term, and I will go wherever, but in the country, but I will stay here. But it's important for the memory of the institutions, and it's very important to create a culture of participating and to create a culture inside the institutions, and it's very much hard inside the political parties to cooperate with young people outside their political parties. So that's a challenge, but it's easy when you believe in something that is being done wrong or right, whatever. It's easy to say what you mean, let's say.
Very, very last question. This is an interesting one. Do you feel that you're doing enough for young people in North Macedonia, and do you feel representative of young people? And I would add to that, do you think that democracy now is fast enough to create the changes that young people are expecting? As we saw with the data, young people are feeling that they're excluded. But is democracy now, in the case of North Macedonia, fast enough with the reforms for them to be feeling included?
Okay, that's a tough question, because it's very hard to say, are you a representative of the young people? I'm trying to speak as member of parliament for people who voted for me and people who didn't vote for me. Because young people voted for one or another, and it's not important. They are young, and we have to address their issues, firstly. Secondly, we are struggling to keep them here in the country. It's not the issue of mobility. They have to be mobile, but it's the issue of brain drain for this country. And I've said it before, the youth NGOs that I'm cooperating with and the young people will judge for my work. Has democracy improved? Is fast enough? No, it's not. It's very slow, and it's a slow process here, especially for including young people and giving the reforms that are being made in the country or that are supposed to be made in the country. It's a very slow and tough process. And we are all learning on the way, let's say, but we can do more and we can work faster.
Not all about democracy, it's about political willingness. I mean, as EU integration is the most important issue for all Western Balkan 6, I believe, we should add the issue of youth as well. What I want to say. It's not true that youth have been excluded from the politics or from the system. They have been misused for political purposes. I mean, this is not a critique to the governments or to the political elites. We are fully aware. I mean, just a few days ago, there was a UN agency report saying that Bulgaria will lose 30% of its population by 2050, and Western Balkan 6 in average by 20%. So we have to do something. We have to implement real policies. As you probably may know, one of the main issues which European Commission has with our countries is the process of implementation of adopted strategies and national actual plans and rule of law and so on and so forth. So, on the other hand, it is not an easy call. It's expensive. It requires a lot of expertise, foreign support. I mean, I was reading a few days ago in Finland, for example, we have a huge campaign in North Macedonia about disinformation and fake news. In Finland, as one of the most advanced countries worldwide when it comes to education, media, digital literacy, cybersecurity issues, fake news, they start to prepare even from kindergarten with specialized programs. I'm not talking about primary or secondary or high school, even in the kindergarten. So with EU support, with NGO support, with donor community support, I think we can do something which will make a difference. Otherwise, we risk a lot. Not just getting older population, but in terms also of economic development and going ahead.
Thank you very much. I think we had a fruitful discussion which triggered a lot of your thinking. I would like now to open up the floor for your comments, questions. As I said, I cannot take all of the questions from here because some of them are statements, and I want you to actually make the statements yourself. We already have a question, comment, thought right over there. Please.
Thank you. My name is Madalina. I'm coming from Romania, and I have a question related to regional dynamics in terms of youth perceptions of the working conditions. Because in Romania, after the EU accessions, we didn't have only the process of brain drain. So practically, everyone from the workforce left the countries for better opportunities in the Western European Union. So some of the reasons are related, for example, to worker condition and availability of decent jobs in Romania, and actually availability in different parts of the country. So my question is, what is the perception of young people in the region, starting from your experience of interacting with them, in terms of the working condition and the availability of decent jobs, quality jobs?
Very much what we do understand under decent job. If you ask young people, they think they're looking for a well-paid job. There are no official data, but unofficial statistics show that youth people in the region are paid in average between 200 and 300 euros. And they're asking us, listen, how come? Is it enough even for basic living? No. So again, I mean, we have to support, to create conditions, to encourage, to dedicate, to allocate financial resources to support youth employment, startups, economic development. No one will stay with 200 euros. This is my
think for me, as what was discouraging, apart from the number of people saying they would leave, was also this number of people wanted to rather work for public institutions than to be entrepreneurs. And here I also see that there is a big problem in our countries. Starting from education, as Zoran was saying, that we are just not keeping up with the trends. Technologies are disrupting the markets. Education is not following that in a right perspective. And having this thinking that, in terms of security and stability, and because of the corruption in the countries, and knowing people, it's actually better to work in public institutions than being an entrepreneur. And also not having the national governments doing anything in that regard, it's really discouraging. Because we need to create the conditions so that, that you are here, that you really feel motivated to start something on your own. That you are the ones, who are bringing technologies in the market, that you are one who is, actually creating these good jobs because of which you would like to stay and actually offer this opportunity to offer opportunities for more people to be employed. So this is also the call for the governments that something really needs to be done, because in a way entrepreneurship was killed, in these countries. And that is why we see apathy, that is why we see no motivation. But also I think it's very important that then, we put in a spotlight those that are able to succeed, and that there are actually good success stories. We have Bulgaria, being a vibrant country for the startups. So, they were able, to do something over there so that people want to go over there. There are a lot of Croatians who moved and actually were able to raise, their companies, that were then getting investment somewhere else. So, there are these kind of examples that we try to replicate in the country so that we don't have this kind of situations that that the average salary is 200 or 300 euros, and then of course that people would leave.
Thank you very much. We have another question, comment, thought right over there. Josip, please. Please also say your name and where you come from, and if you address the question to
You
somebody.
already said my name. Hi, I'm Josip from Croatia. I had a question, but I'd rather use this time to make a comment, because I rather strongly disagree with the last two remarks. Because most of the research show that young people are actually moving because of the security of job, and especially, for example, now in Croatia, where you have state encouragement, state initiatives, for example, to co-finance the loans to buy your first apartment, but you cannot get a loan if you're working on a 6-month contract, and 90% of young people in Croatia, their first job is short-term contract. Croatia is #1 in EU in the precarious work. All of the Western Balkans are leading in the rise of gig economy, of the short term, which is mostly affecting young people. And young people don't want to work in public institutions because they are lazy, because they think the job is easy, because that's the only way they can know they can survive for the next year and 2 years. And I think that you especially, like the people that are in much more power than we are, in public places should pay more focus to choosing your words carefully, not to encourage or discourage people to search jobs in different areas, but to talk more about how to change the policies. If we want young people to have security jobs, we don't need young people to encourage. We don't need to encourage young people. We need to change the laws. We need to change perspectives. We need to change our countries to stop being service countries, to stop just promoting, for example, in all of the southern Croatia, in Dalmatia, the seaside, and I'm guessing it's kind of similar maybe in Montenegro, maybe in North Macedonia, just living for 4 months from tourism and stuff like that. These kind of things are unsustainable, and you can have a good jobs. I mean, in Zagreb, capital, jobs are real. The wages are really good, but people don't want to live there because it's not secure. If you're not working, if you're not owning the company, if you're not working for the public institution, it's not a secure job. And yeah, I think we, especially you, need to pay much more attention of not encouraging or discouraging young people, because we don't need encouragement and nice words to keep us here. We need some practical change. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Josip. Maybe Ivana, you want to comment on the comment?
Shortly, about the power, I fully agree with you. And that is something that we had a debate in Parliament about young people leaving. The opposition is always using that. Everyone is using that. But It's a thing that we are making a mistake thinking that young people are just leaving because of economic reason. They are, especially here, they are leaving because of quality of life and secure jobs and everything. But it's about, I reply actually, about the power. You have the power. Yes, it's true that with nice words we cannot change anything. But if we partner with the youth sector, NGO sector, then I think that we can make change. Not just the laws, because the laws, you can change it, but it's the implementation that is very, very much important.
Thank you very much for your reply. I feel already like in Parliament. Please, there's another question right over there.
I don't know. Hi, I'm Oliana from Albania. Actually, I was one of those young people back in time. I'm still young. I will be forever young. I'm kidding. I was studying in France. I did my bachelor and master. Then I was back in my country. And sometimes when I get introduced to people, I say, I studied in France. And what are you doing here? Why did you come back with all this? Then for some reason, I don't know, my career and my life took another path that maybe if I stayed in France, I wouldn't have that chance. Maybe I was lucky, maybe I was not. Now I have the luck to work in the university with young people every day. And what I see, to be honest, I see a lack of culture and of information. It is not year 2005 when I went in France and I really knew how abroad was, how Europe was, but I didn't have the information that the young people have today. Because it's okay, we live in the Western Balkans, but people, I don't see difference. I have taught, I teach classes even in Estonia, which is really advanced, and I don't see difference between young people in terms of information, how they get information. Maybe we lack a bit of a culture of creating an employment culture in our countries. We produce a lot of diplomas, even more diplomas than other countries in Europe and in the world, a lot of people go to the university, but what do they study? I mean, I see a lot of people that they study economics or they study international relations, but we don't have the right career consultation or academic. In France, they have a nice word for this. You make like a kind of, you follow the person since the first day he goes to university until the end, and you find out what do you like and what do you don't like in the subject that you study. You don't study for the sake of studying. Then my question maybe is, how to implement a kind of culture, of working culture in general, or job culture, or how to make even the labor market adaptable to this. Because our labor market, I mean, we have a lot of studies, but in the region, there are no data of what is going inside really the labor market. I was very curious even about your survey when I see the question when people just answer to Likert scales, maybe just like this, but we don't go in depth. Maybe I like more the questions, how, why you are not satisfied. Because in our countries we see a lot of smiley faces, but level of happiness is very low, even among young people.
This is actually a great comment and question for the panelists. But I would also note something, like I would take the North Macedonian experience. So I think it was in 2009 or 10, the European Commission in their progress report said that there's not enough highly educated young people in North Macedonia. So what the government did is a quick fix, lowered the tuition fees, opened up universities basically in every town and in every village. You even have a university right here in Kruševo, which maybe we will go and see. But the production of university diplomas did not mean that young people are more educated. It just meant that you have a paper, which is saying that you have a university degree, but it basically means nothing. And then what actually happened is, as you see with the figures, unemployment rate among young people is quite high and was quite high throughout the years. What the government tried to do is give young people the opportunity only in jobs which are basically in the industry. So opening up new jobs only with working on tracks, different aspects, and only offering 200 euros for the job, which is the minimum salary. So in that sense, I think what was noted previously, policy is very important to see how serious political elites are taking into account what young people are saying. Because when young people are saying we want to leave because there's no jobs, there's not enough quality of life here, and you give them just a job opportunity in industry, then I don't think they will stay. Rather contrary, they will say, well, you didn't listen to us fully. You just heard, oh, we need employment. So please feel free to answer the question if you want.
Short comment. From my point of view, the issue of culture is closely interlinked with the quality of education. My government, for example, a few years ago, it's not about university education only. They bought a Cambridge from the year 74 license for primary and secondary school from 1974. Why? Because 2016 or 15 was very expensive. If you do it properly. Not just for PR purposes or for something, you know, negative effects will follow later on. And we will pay the price all together at the end of the day. So culture comes with good education. Good education prepares better young people to find a better, well-paid job tomorrow.
To answer your question, I have to see, Blažen already mentioned measures that the government was doing before. And here my colleague has mentioned the perfect example of how we do reforms in the educational system. But it's to answer your question, we don't have an evaluation in the Ministry of Education, for example, of those previous measures that were taken by the government. And that is very important if we want to continue to create policies. They are trying to do something now from high school about career advising, career center advisors, and stuff like that for young people to change the culture, actually. But that is a process. And now we have a paradoxical situation where you have the business sector saying we don't have enough people working for us, and on the other side, young people are jobless. And there is someone in this story that is not creating all the jobs, or young people are misled in there, but I don't think that this is the case. So, but the reason about all this is what Josip mentioned. That's the secure of jobs, and that's why they are picking, I don't know, economy, international relations, law. It's the secure jobs, and that is a big issue in these countries.
Yeah, this also comes a lot with the lack of strategic vision of the countries. Because we just don't, our countries, they don't, see, like, what they want to achieve, how they want to, how they want to drive the economies. European Commission, put in place smart specialization in order for the countries to be able to recognize where are their strengths, and then, build the capacity on that. However, the Commission is recognizing this problem of, first of all, problems with connecting, education with this culture, and not having the right career paths at majority of universities. So for that reason, they are considering of actually forming another area, which is going to be called higher education area. Now we just have for the research and innovation, but now they're really thinking of doing this for the higher education because they see there are so many gaps. We have the innovation gap, but we also have a very big education gap in the countries. For that reason, they put in place this Erasmus call, which is actually targeting universities so that they do have knowledge exchange, and that they modernize each other. Unfortunately, as usually it happens, this again, was taken up by the universities that are doing good as they are. But now with the second one, we are fostering and, trying to involve other countries to join, because this is really the right way that they, that they see, how others are doing, that also others, Western ones, learn what are the problems, with the one in our countries, so that, kind of consolidation and recommendation also happen at a higher level. The Commission did that also in purpose from the perspective that they really want to get input, from these pilots to see what then should be seen in the policies of the future. And I really hope that the European Commission will start with that and that they will form this area, because of course it's not that that will solve all the problems, but at least they will start addressing some of those so that we don't see such a big gap in between the countries. But let's see what will happen.
Or let's influence.
Yes.
There is a question right over there.
So I'm going to mention a couple of things from my experiences and link it to one, the gig economy that one mentioned, and the quality of life. So I'm from Greece. I was an entrepreneur myself. I am, still am. We co-founded a startup like 3 or 4 years ago. We acquired like 5 million in funding. We still run. We have like 20 employees or something. So we went pretty well. It all went well until I lost 2 of my best engineers, which were really well paid from Greece. We paid like between 2,000 and 3,000 euros per month at this. And I lost those 2 guys because they got the job, a remote job, for a German company. But I could not compete with the German company, right? 8K. Now the first aspect of this. This is not a brain drain itself. It's kind of a brain drain, because they travel in Germany for a few months. And that's a huge issue for inequality, and this will be a huge issue for inequality in the Eastern Europe in the years to come, because this guy makes in 1 month what this guy makes in Greece in like 4 or 3 months. That's the one part. The second part, I was consulting for GfK in Germany like a few months ago. And they have this part of this commission that you have there. They have this huge product that's very specific, like they have 1 or 2 years of product development. So they hired like, I think 100 guys from all over Europe. All over Europe means mainly from Eastern Europe. So we have Romanian, Bulgarians, Turkish guys, Romanian especially, because they're really good in programming. And they moved to Nuremberg for like a few months or so, for a year. If you stay permanently in Germany, you don't make that much money. If you, for example, 5,000 euros sounds like a lot. Now, if you get the expenses, the travel, the plane ticket, and so on, the net you have at the end of the day, it's not, it's not amazing itself. So you ask yourself, why are they staying here? Because you cannot save, you cannot make rich. And the only answer is that, and that's actually, I think, the answer for the Eastern Europe, that the Eastern Europe cannot compete with Germany. They're like, to fix huge companies or startups, so on, it's a chicken and egg problem. You have to invest some fixed time, you have to at least a couple of generations stay in the country and then rebuild these companies. No matter how patriotic you are, you won't do it. I mean, it doesn't make sense financially. But they say cannot compete with GfK, but if you ask them why you stay in Germany, they say the quality of life. So there's no way you can build a company there, but you can do, like, you can create a decent school, not a great school. You can create a decent school. You can have some kindergarten that you can finance to keep the companies there and have a decent way of life. So that's actually my pragmatic and realistic point of view on this, that we have to invest more on the quality of life for the average person, rather than trying to compete on a whole another level. No matter how romantic it sounds, it's not realistic. And I think the sooner we realize it, the better off we'll be on that front.
Thank you for your great insight. It's something very, very, very interesting. And it's a little bit contradictory, because young people somehow want to work in public administration, But in reality, I don't know about the other countries, but I feel that in reality, that is one of the worst jobs you can actually have. It's completely disorganized. People yell at you constantly because you cannot do something for them. And this is a little bit the contrary. Young people wanting to work in public sector or in the public administration, but also wanting to have a quality of life and job. And this is basically contradictory to what is happening. Of course, this is also something connected with security. But my question would be, how do you, through policies and through ideas, do you create a better life standard for young people? Is there a short-term solution for it, or do countries need to think really long forward when it comes to this process? Okay, this is a hard question. Maybe another question from there.
Something
Yeah.
for me, quality of life is actually different from creating conditions.
Mm.
Because I think, quality.
Yes.
The quality of life in our countries, it's actually very good in terms of, security, that you have, at least we still have it, that you can walk safely, in the streets, still maybe some, can still have open houses without locking them, that you have great food that you can enjoy, that you socialize still a lot, which is kind of, different, in some Western countries. I have a colleague that is a great entrepreneur in US. And she was saying that the reason why she wants to come back, even though she brought up a lot of startups, working with these giants as Facebook and the others, but she says that Silicon Valley nowadays is eating you for breakfast, meaning that this is the place for really youngsters that can spend some time, but there is really limited time that you can be there, because then the quality of life, it's not there any longer. So, she wants, to come back to Croatia, to have the conditions to do what she's doing over there, meaning, working, with young people, and trying to, build up, some capacities at least, because she says that for her, it's just, unbearable to have a normal life, not, to mention to raise up the family, etc. So it's different, as you were saying in Germany, is it really, that it's actually much better? I was talking yesterday to a guy who actually is a successful entrepreneur who is now working for Croatian Rimac cars company, because he said, being an entrepreneur in Germany means that most probably you're going to finish in jail sooner or other because of the laws, because of the taxes, etc. And then he was saying again that for him, quality in life in Croatia and that the job that he's doing over there, is that, he would not even think, twice going back. So there are, different kind of stories. So I think that it's really more important that we work, all together, especially at the policy level, that we really create conditions for those that want to stay, for those that want to go, but then again, thinking of how to, get them back. And that we have a better, quality for all of us in terms of what we are offering, in terms of education, in terms of jobs, and in general, that we all have, a life that actually everybody deserves, regardless from which countries they come from.
Thank you very much for your opinion. There is one question there, and I see some people raising hands. Don't worry, a microphone will come, please.
Okay, I would like to thank all speakers. I really enjoyed with their speech. I would like to add some comments regarding to Balkan region, Southeast European country. I think that the European Union in general really great project regarding, if we see in general world politics, is many countries, they come together, economic union and cultural union. But in Western Balkan, let's say in Eastern European countries, there are a huge gap between Central European countries. I think there are several lack of things that in this project, for example, single European market system, that one of the things that may be barrier on economic development in Eastern European countries. And the second thing, even just now I checked the Transparent Corruption Index. We have a lot of corruption in Western Balkans. And the third thing, there is no, unfortunately, freedom media. So a lot of pressure by political, even government, that pressure a lot on the media. We don't see a lot of things. So this is third thing, maybe the lack of things. So, and also I would like to ask the question, this is my comment about why there is huge gap between Western European and Eastern European. I would like to ask, you mentioned, Mr. Popov, about radicalize, but you didn't mean like which kind of radicalization, religious radicalization, or which ideological radicalization exists in or increasing in the Western Balkan? I mean, it's nationalism or Islamic radicalization or Christian radicalization. What did you mean exactly? If you clarify, yes, I would like to ask this. Okay.
Thank you very much. Please, the floor is yours.
First, comment on your comment on EU. I mean, why it is so important for youth and for our societies in general. Why do we want to join European Union as soon as possible? First and foremost, for all of us, is about the rule of law. Why? Because the closer you are, the narrow-minded the space for hanky-panky businesses. So as far as you progress with the negotiations, you have a better respect of laws, better rule of law, more democracy, more opportunities for you, in a nutshell. Yes, the gap is growing between even Eastern Europe and Western Europe, but even between Eastern Europe and Western Balkans. Countries which joined the European Union in 2005 in the fourth and the fifth wave, they got billions of euros assistance for national development, for regional development, for support of undeveloped regional areas and so on and so forth. On radicalization, there are two trends. If we look into Southeast European region in broader perspective, which for RCC means 13 countries of both, we have Western Balkan 6 plus Greece, Bulgaria, Turkey, Romania, Croatia, Slovenia, and Moldova. There are two main trends. When it comes to Western Balkan 6, they are more closely affiliated to radicalization, Islamic religious background, so to say. Not the official one. Huh? When it comes to broader region, there are some elements of violent national ultra-right or left extremism. So these are the two main trends ongoing nowadays in Southeast Europe.
Thank you very much for your answer. I saw there was a question there. Yeah, you have the microphone, please.
Hello. Hello, my name is Zoran from Romania, from Eurodemos. And during the session, I saw that we talked about a lot about what other people did, what other people should do further to prevent brain drain. But I would like to know what exactly could we do, the people in this room, to prevent brain drain on Monday when we return to our countries.
That is an excellent question for the facilitators. Facilitators, what will you do? No, but just to clarify a little bit about the program, these panels are thought of to give you input and bring your minds into action to really think what you can do. And then the facilitators who will work with you in the different groups after these sessions will help you to really formulate what you think we should do as young people and formulate it and present it on Monday in Parliament. So no worries, we'll come to that right after this session, and you will actually have time to really think of it and work on it and to come up with ideas what we can really do. Are there questions? Ah, yeah.
Local MP, go to the city council, talk to the mayor, talk to the advisors, go to the EU delegation office, go to the main NGOs. You have a lot to do, but pressure the first and the second.
Yasmina, please.
Thank you. Thank you, Blažen. Thank you to panelists. Maybe you can see me, maybe not. I'm Yasmina, and I'm coming from Bosnia and Herzegovina. So, yeah, I was making that question over there, and again, I'm making it here because I would like to be really clear when we speak about radicalization and putting young people from our region in that box, let's say. For example, a few days ago, I was attending to presentation of the research done by one of the organizations in Bosnia. They had this research based on like how young people are close to extremism, like not like speaking about radicalization exactly, but rather extremism. And for example, Mr. Popov said that Islam, like as a religion, like getting to this direction, is one of the highest, yes, on the highest level. But for example, the results that we got in Bosnia, they don't even mention that. Like the highest rate was like politicians, like young people. If you ask them if they would do harm and act like as extremists, they would do harm to politicians. I would not like go like behind that, but why? I just want to make sure and to ask again, Mr. Popov, because you said unofficially, like to maybe try to avoid, because you just said like that those kind of results are not official, and even I asked like based on what you are claiming this, is there a kind of research done, and who is standing behind of that? And because I think it's very sensitive question, especially if very loudly like about reconciliation and other moments.
I'm very
Thank
sorry
you.
if you get me wrong, first. Second, I've used the term unofficial only once in my presentation when I was referring to salaries of young people, that we don't have official data, but unofficially they're moving between 200 and 300 euros. So you mixed here the things a little bit. Second, what I wanted to say is that there are some trends in the region that young people, for economic reasons, it is not national sponsored. It's not Western Balkan 6, it's not regional, but it's a foreign influence. Of course, all of the countries, they have national strategies for countering terrorism and prevention violent extremism, and they are doing very, very well. Again, I'm very sorry if you get me wrong. My point was that due to the low economic situation in the region, they're even sort to say forced, even they do not agree with it, they don't like it, but they're joining some associations to make it for living and then getting slowly into this process. Of course, national responses are completely another stuff, and we are doing a good job in this respect in close cooperation with national institutions. Listen, it is very difficult to talk about official data and numbers there. We are getting reports from national administrations on what's going on, for institutions in charge. But I cannot tell you that, yes, there are today 1 or 2 or 3, 5,000 people. No. But I'm just saying that as a trend, it started to show up. Again, my point was here was that due to the low economic development, chances to get a good job, we are noticing new trends. I'm sorry if you, again, get me wrong.
But this is something I would actually like to raise the question. Why do you think, in general, the region is such a fertile ground, either for politicians who try to spread their radical messaging, or whether, why do you think, is there a fertile ground when it comes to radicalizing youth, either right wing, left wing, any religion or whatever? Why do we have this problem?
I think, firstly, I hear that they are radical towards politicians. Well, that's not new. But, yeah. But I think that one thing is the economic situation, but another thing is the low quality of education, and that they do not know each other. In the region, especially in the Western Balkans, it's very easy to push up the nationalists' agenda and to say whatever, because people are remembering the wars, they are remembering everything, and politicians are just trying for people to remember very well the wars, not to reconcile them. So it's important that young people in the region, especially of the Western Balkans, but it's for any country, to know each other. That's why youth exchanges are very welcomed, and to improve the quality of education, so they cannot be manipulated by politicians that just want votes at the end.
Great. Do we have any other questions? We have, oh, there is one question here.
First of all, thank you for your speech. So actually now we are talking about like young people and what is the problem, what they are living, or why they are staying. So in this session we are always talking about economical reasons, but behind of that also there are some reasons that which are political reasons that they are moving or they are going. It's because there is no rights in their countries that they can have. So in this kind of, by the way, I'm from Turkey, so it's the same in Turkey as well. So there is no youth policies. The policy is not having youth policy. So it's because they are thinking that if they have youth policy, they cannot control the big power in the country. So also these kind of problems like the education, health, work, everything is related to social policies. So, but they don't care about the social policies, but they are saying that we are social government. So, but they are not talking about it and they are not referring it. So also another main topic is that maybe decision makers or politicians should understand that young people are not future. They are today. We are today. If we cannot solve problem today, we cannot see the future. So they are like, okay, tomorrow when you are politician, you can solve. But why you don't? So you have a chance, you can do it. There is a resource here, you can do what you want, we know what, and also, like, you know, when they are talking about the young people's problems, like their solutions are needs, but the solution is rights, not needs. So we are always talking about the needs, but not rights. So it's because they don't want to talk about the rights. So actually main problem is that, and they are not referring it. So they want to use young people how they want. That's the main reason, the education. Like every 2 years they change. It's not possible to do it every 2 years. Or health things, like they change and they don't care. If you don't have money, die in the corner. I don't care. It's also related to some economical things. It's because of, in this region, some economical reasons that maybe it's kind of, I'm sorry, but late capitalism that we couldn't get before, and we don't know how to speak about social liberalism and rights. So also our economy is not enough. We cannot like fund or doing something. So they're just talking about the needs, not rights, and they cover the problems. So that's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you. Baran, there is a question.
Oh, a lot of questions and comments. James?
Sorry. I have maybe just an input, maybe, if it's okay, if you allow me. Well, we're talking about the should we stay or should we leave? That's a really hard question, and depends in which country of the Balkan it's different. And I'm going to talk from the perspective of Kosovo because I live there and I kind of know the situation. The young people leave. I think it's higher than those statistics, to be honest, in 2018, way much higher. Only German embassy had more work visas released than that number that I've seen there. But the problem is in politics in Kosovo. You know, the politicians use young people basically for campaign, and they're not involved in decision making at all, or a really small percentage. And then once elections are finished, they don't give them a positions at all, and the youth get disappointed, and then they leave, of course. If there is a really low employment, there is no health insurance, there is no job security, all those problems we mentioned until now. I think young people don't realize that we are majority, that we can change things, as many young organizations or youth movements did. I think we're just desperate and enough of protests, and we don't do much. If we create, okay, I'm still thinking I'm young, if we create a political party, we will win the elections. Trust me, 18 to 30 years old, 35 where I am, I think we will win the election, and we don't realize, the young people don't realize how big power we have to change, and we don't use that. We are very silent, and we are very okay, run after politicians, put the posters. We are the future of tomorrow. I'm hearing I'm the future of tomorrow since 2000, right after the war, and I'm 36, and I still keep on hearing it. And I had to go and live in US, I had to go and work in Afghanistan and all kind of crappy countries, and not US, that's crappy, but still. And why? Because I was not offered that future of tomorrow in Kosovo. And yes, I keep on hearing, why are you back from US? You're crazy all the time. And every time I go to Europe, because of a visa liberalization in Kosovo, every time, even in short trip, which I go very often, I come back, I get the same comment years and years. Why you're back? You know, people don't realize that. I think that's freedom of movement is a big thing, big deal that everybody should have. And also Kosovo and Bosnia, we have to fix that visa problem sooner or later. Thank you.
Speak of visa problem. You have two, one towards the EU and one towards Bosnia. We have been thinking long time in the Regional Cooperation Council what to do and how to overcome it. Since we have been organizing a number of meetings and receiving more than 100 applications, letters to help either Bosnia or Kosovo citizens to obtain their visas in a short-term procedure, so to say. So we have proposed to the Western Balkan 6 leaders the so-called Regional Free Movement Agreement, which will overcome this obstacle, which means free movement with ID cards between all Western Balkan 6. There is good political will. It is still work in progress, but I think that we can make it until the summit of Berlin process next year, and at least to overcome. Because all other, they do have bilateral agreements on free movement, either with passports, ID cards, or both. And these are the only two economist countries which are still struggling a lot, and we want to support this, and we are working on it.
Thank you very much for both comments. Josip?
Sorry for a bit of privatizing and getting a second question. I'd like to again take a role a bit of devil's advocate. I mean, I'm not sure was that your intention or did you notice, but I don't think today's or this morning's panel is encouraging so much young people to stay. I mean, we talked about all the things the young people should do, should change the politics, should change the law, should change the higher education, should change the culture, should change the discrimination, everything. And can you honestly say to a young person, do all that struggle without any kind of guarantee that you will actually achieve anything? Because, I mean, okay, Croatia has peace for the last 25 years. A lot of problems are still the same. Some things improved, some things got worsened. But can you tell a young person, go work as hard as you can without knowing anything? And what is it that should keep us here? I mean, and there was a great question, what's so special about it? Why not go some other place and work hard there to improve, where you don't have to change everything, why not move to Finland and work hard to improve that country and that place where you live? You know, can you honestly, not honestly maybe, but having in mind the benefit of young people, and the people in this room, can you recommend them to stay? Like, are you brave enough to say to a young person, stay and work, if you pardon my French, work your ass off without any kind of, I mean, guarantee that you will change anything? Yeah, sorry for maybe bringing the spirits down.
No, but this is I think this is a great question, and Ivana, as the only politician, wants to tell you too.
As a citizen, a young person of this country, I will always recommend for young people to stay here and to fight for whatever they believe. Because, you know, there was a panel, I think a year ago, where youngsters were asking me questions, because I was, again, the only politician in the panel, but it was a national one. So, I've asked them, if they don't want to stay in the country, why am I a member of parliament? If they don't want to stay in the country, fine, just let's fix it and say it loudly. We don't want to stay in the country. Okay, then I'm not anymore a member of parliament, because I don't have to be there. For who? I'm not working there for myself. And if young person in this region, in any country, do not believe that they can change something without knowing the result at the end, because I didn't know the result at the end. Blažen was part also of the student movement, didn't know the result at the end. But we struggled. I don't know if we succeed still. I'm disappointed by the results, but I still have hope and energy to fight for rule of law. Here were mentioned fundamental human rights. That is something that we are still working on as a country. That's a very individual question, and non-politician should say to young people in the country, you should stay here. But it's a very individual question, and those things that we are talking today here about what we should do, and I say we because I strongly believe that the only improvement that we are going to make at the national level are with partnership between institutions and young people. But if young people don't want that, then fine. But the reason of existing of members of parliament that are young is non-existing anymore if young people don't want to fight for the country. Thank you.
Please.
Because I'm speaking to my countrymen. I don't know why. I think that this is also something that needs to be that we need to speak about that as well. For me, as Ivana was saying, this is very individual. I think the changes are needed in general, not to convince anybody to stay or go, but we all need to work to improve conditions. Either for us who are young, older. And it's regardless of that, because I think that also, this region deserves, to be acknowledged for more than just being a security issue, or that, the unemployment is, very big or whatever. On another hand, I don't know why everybody thinks it's easy to be an expat. I know from my personal experience, being, there in Brussels for 6 years, we were just joking the other day, after 6 years, this was my first summer that I was socializing in Brussels, that I had the time for that. So it's also a bit of a culture of work. It takes a sacrifice. It took 3 years for me that, I can, have a, working permit, because at the time, Croatia just joined, and I was the first actually expat that was not working for the institution. So nobody knew what to do with me. So there are a lot of challenges that you are exposed to. You are not in your environment. You have so many fights that you have to fight. So either you get to that fight and you do it, and then you say, okay, so now that I'm there, what I'm supposed to do? As you were saying, I got questions every time I got back home, why you're not coming back? You're not enough of a patriot. And my question was, so if I'm coming back, is that means to you that I'm proving my national identity? Why wouldn't I speak, about Croatia, and the country and the region, and try to fight where the decisions are making, so that really I can really say, okay, I'm doing something. I'm trying, I'm here, I'm not with my family, I'm having my struggles, but I'm still here because I want to make changes. So everybody picks their own fight. It's not true that, if you are staying or leaving, that you're doing something bad or wrong. You have to be convinced by yourself that what you are doing, it's okay with you. So that's why, I'm saying, and it's also right what it was said here, we have to fight for the rights. Political rights are very important, and it's true that really, I was hearing from Hungary the other day, the great academic I was having an interview with, he said, why I'm in Germany? Because I don't have academic freedom in Hungary any longer. So this is also happening in countries who are, members of European Union for a longer time. So we always have to, but you are here that you can really make some change, even though this is a very big burden. But we all have to try to do something to make our lives better. Is it, on daily basis, or it's, at the political level, as it is a professional level, but everybody has to do a contribution to that. And let us, try to work on the conditions. And as I said, we also have to be very open. What does it mean to leave the country? And why, it's also that people want to come back. So there's a lot of structural, all kinds of, challenges that we are facing. But that's why these dialogues are important. It's not that we can solve it. These are the issues that are ongoing for a number of years. But as long as we acknowledge it, and at least there's a willingness to do something, these data that Zoran was coming at, they are very discouraging. But this is the reality, and we have to work around it. And this is our job, so we have to try to do something about it.
I see a microphone there. Facilitator, please.
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Marco. I have actually a question. So my question is regarding what was beyond what was mentioned in the panel, economic, social reasons. To which extent do you think peer pressure is a push factor for young people to leave? Because there's a sense it's kind of cool to leave the country. And if that's the case, how do you think that we can address it on a communication level?
First.
We've had an event in Parliament last week about the International Day of Democracy, and we've invited young people that created great activism on a level, creating an application for violence, for reporting violence, others for climate change, people with disabilities and everything. And the media got in the news only the speech of the Speaker of the Parliament and none of the speeches from the initiatives that were invited to talk on the International Day of Democracy. The peer pressure and that you will see in the Friedrich Hebert analysis, but it's in the media and in the society, and we are not talking enough for successful stories that we have. We have very much successful stories that are coming back, for example, from Erasmus Plus, that are creating something on a local level in schools. They are initiating something, and when they see that no one cares and that no one writes about those initiatives, then they are gonna leave the country and go somewhere where someone will cherish those ideas and initiatives. So we have to work on the positive stories and to find them on a local level, on a national level, and to talk about the initiatives and ideas that young people are having, and they are having a lot of ideas. There is not the only idea, I want to leave the country and that's it. They have ideas to improve their municipality, their country. They are creating, they are using the technology to change something, and that's very important to be in the media, to be in social media, so we can see the other side of the story, not only that young people are just wanting to leave the country.
You right. So you don't think it's only peer pressure, but it's also the media and the stigma that is happening. Yes. Okay. I just wanted to clarify that. There is a question right over there. Is it on?
Hello? There we go. Hi, I'm Violet. I'm here as an Italian citizen, but I was born and raised in Argentina, so my grandparents are Italian. So mobility is actually a big pillar of my life. And I also think it is a very important pillar of the European Union. We all know that freedom of movement of people is actually a very important base of the Union. But I also think, and I was reflecting while you were talking, that mobility of people is as old as time. I mean, there's fluxes of people moving since, you know, history and the ancient times. So I don't know if I agree on putting this data as discouraging. I do think this is a normal human process, that people want to move and that they will seek better conditions when they're moving. So maybe I'm a bit of an idealist, but I think maybe the focus should be more, instead of talking about mobility, which is something that maybe is a given thing, that maybe the focus should be on better life conditions in every place, so people can actually make a choice. And I think it ends up, and a bit with Anita's comment as well, it boils down to making a choice. And within the choice, I think the important thing also of this kind of initiatives and this kind of conferences and exchanges is that we make informed choices. And which means that we're not peer pressured, or we are not being influenced by radicalized people saying, oh, you're not a patriot if you don't stay in your country, or, oh, why did you leave? Or the opposite, because always the grass is always greener on the other side. So I think that maybe we can start to try to focus this, also these discussions as well in terms of freedom of choice. And I would add the component of informed and experienced choices, so that we are taking part in these exchanges and we are talking to people and we're discussing. I think this is the best thing we can do, because we can have perspectives from very, very varied sectors. And I think maybe it's a little bit of a wrap-up reflection. I don't know, I think we're over time already, sorry about that. But yeah, let's not stay with prejudices that maybe we've got in our countries, but actually also listen to each other, and this is a great forum to do that. So thank you for being here and giving your opinion as well, and your experiences, your life experiences are also very important. Thank you.
That was actually a very, very nice wrap-up of the whole discussion that we had. What strikes me most is that most of the people are very polarized in two sectors. One say the ones that are moving out and leaving the country are not doing enough for the country, and then the ones who are actually leaving saying, well, I think you who are staying there are doing a pretty bad jobs in driving the country. So I think it's rather both sides of the argument have actually their own battles. So it's not an easy choice to actually say, oh, I'll stay in my country and fight for something. But it's also not very easy to leave everything behind that you have known in the years and go to a completely different country and meet completely new people and adapt to different circumstances that you didn't have in life. But what we have to do as young people is keep the discussion very honest and respectful towards the different opinions that are out there, and also think that the freedom of choice is very important. So when a young person wants to leave, it shouldn't be forbidden for them to leave, but rather encourage them and give them the opportunities that they have, but also try to give the platform for young people that are staying so they can choose their battles and win the battles, because going into battle is one thing, but winning the battles in a political platform is the real difficult part. With that on mind, we will close up this session for today. Thank you very much for writing a lot of comments. I saw a lot of unserious comments. Please keep them to a minimum. I will engage also in the discussion, as you probably noticed on there. And please use your names and only use anonymous when you think or you don't want your name to be out there. But I think it's an interesting platform to see what you're thinking in the moment when people are speaking, and we can have an honest discussion on there as well. We will have now a coffee break, and then we will continue with the work, and Anelia is waving. She wants to tell us something, no?
Practical things.
Oh.
What we can...
Okay, so... Oh yes, thank you very much for having us, for being here. I know for some of you it was a long way to come to Kruševo. For the participants it was also a long way, so, but they had an extra day to sleep it off. And after this we're having a coffee break, and Anelia wants to tell us something very practical.
Coffee break will be served in the bar till 1 o'clock, from 1